My name is Rosa Martinez.
No, I'm Sakshna.
And we are currently on the Freedom Flotilla Coalition vessel, the Adala, and we are currently sailing north of Crete, just along the coast.
Yeah, and inshallah we continue east. Mm-hmm. And so the way that we describe it, or Freedom Flotilla describes it, is it's also a human rights mission. And even though the first few boats were able to reach Gaza, it was incredible, but it was also symbolic, because it's not like they could carry a bunch of aid. And though we have some medicine on the boat, it's not like we're going to be solving any mass medication crisis in Gaza. So the idea is if we are sailing because governments are not upholding their duties. So as civilians, we get involved.
Flotillas are made up of civilians, activists, medics, lawyers, everyday people that are volunteering their time to help and be involved in the effort. And it is kind of like an international coalition of different groups that are collaborating together to sail to Gaza at the same time as a mass action. I think what is different about this flotilla effort this year is that it is larger than any other effort. I think that is kind of the main difference. What is different specifically about the boat that my friend is on is that although their 4-boat vessel that is traveling together had been planned before the interception happened this past week, it was up in the air whether they were still going to go or not because of the interception. So all the coalitions kind of work together to decide whether they're going to move forward or not. So them sailing towards Gaza, regardless of the interception, is it's in defiance of what Israel is continuing to do, which is being violent and unlawful.
This is the Israeli Navy. Attempts to breach the lawful maritime security blockade of the Gaza Strip constitute a violation of international law. If you wish to deliver or maintain aid to Gaza, you may do so through established and recognized channels. Please change your course and return to your port of origin.
My stomach dropped because Freddie was on one of those boats. So I wasn't prepared when it first happened, and we didn't hear from them for a while, which was, I think any parent can relate to this, just the not knowing if they were safe, whose custody they were in. It was frightening. So those 48 hours were horrifying. I don't know that Freddie would be able to come home and sleep if she didn't at least, if she didn't follow her conscience.
Look, it's pretty possible that we're not going to reach Gaza. Not many, looking back at the nearly 20-year history of the flotilla movement, I think the first few boats made it. No one's been able to make it since. Last year they got fairly close. There are some GSF activists right now that are being held in Israeli prison. Our fate may be similar, but at the same time, in the event that happens, I would like for people to know that whatever it is that we experience, as terrible as it may be, there are 10,000 Palestinians being held in Israeli prisons, many of them in administrative detention, which means being held for an indeterminate amount of time with really no concrete charges being levied against them.
I don't know, it's important to emphasize that the mission is still the same as it's been for 20 years, since before the genocide, and since, there's always a little bit of coverage of Palestine whenever a war starts, and then it peters off. But the mission has remained, through the peaks and the valleys of the thing.
I do think that the pro-Palestinian movement, the solidarity movement, kind of hit a form of stasis. And something that I was really shocked by is whenever, the U.S. and Israeli bombing campaign of Iran began at the end of February, early March, the response in the West was so muted. People didn't know necessarily what to do. I think that marches were becoming smaller and smaller. But I do think that just having conversations about people engaging in more concrete actions, like Noah was saying, the blocking of ports and strikes, both at the workplace and universities and things of that sort, sort of focusing on weapons factory, which is really the direct sort of through line to what the genocide is, as opposed to people just, parading up and down Fifth Avenue in Manhattan and then just going home. So I do feel like, once again, kind of coming back to what the flotilla can do, it opens up that conversation again as to how this one action can be just one of a litany of actions that are more concrete and can actually make a dent in the war machine.
Her mission cannot stop once she comes home. She's not taking this kind of risk, these kind of chances in order to come home and go back to work. If we don't do something now for everyone, what are we going to leave our kids? This is my generation's inaction has left it up to this generation to do something.
Everyone is able to pull a different lever of action, and they should be pulling those as much as they can. So for the people on the flotilla, is like they are physically there. They've kind of they've like changed their lives for however long this lasts. And then for the people that are not physically there, it's like our job to do everything we can right here.
It's the loosening of the jar, right? The fall of Zionism as a racist ideology, the occupation and that comes with it hand in hand. It's like we continue the fight so that we're a little bit closer every time. Our Palestinian siblings are completely able to support themselves. What they can't deal with is a siege, a blockade, the lack of an ability to heal medically, emotionally, psychologically, and that is inhuman. So for the people in the outside world, it is our job to let them thrive on their own, and in doing so, break the siege. That's the only way. If Palestinians haven't lost hope, neither could we.